Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to jump into another special selection. This one's going to be a bit of a doozy in one sense or another. Thomas Schumann says really excited to see reaction and discussion of another Tea Club song, which is awesome because when we checked out I Shall Consume It All, I Shall Consume Everything, I Shall Consume Everything. I had a quite a reaction to that. Not like a YouTube reaction, but like a physical, emotional one. Um, uh, so yeah, I'm looking forward to this. They're an extraordinarily underrated band. Gotta agree. They've written one of my all-time favorite songs from their latest album, and it's 27 minutes long. Also, just a small flex. This is Thomas Schumann. In the last two pre-COVID concerts, got to see Tea Club, Bent Knee, and Thank You Scientist twice on the same tour. Yeah, small flex right there. Says though that the Tea Club, the last one they saw, they played Creature and it blew them away. And they were shocked by how it, immediately they connected with the song and didn't even know it was just one track. So, Tea Club, they've hit me before. And that was only in like a third of the time for this one. So, well, I guess we got a long video ahead of us. 30 minutes of music and probably looking at a 50 to 60 minute video in total. So, grab a drink, pop a squat, get ready to get emotional with the Tea Club.
Call me the pulse, and I will fill your veins. Turn with me, stay with me, rich in my blood, against any reason other than I may feel you again.
Yeah, so you got some really cool Renaissance style composition there.
And I will weigh you down. Knuckles white, carry on, resigned to wander without any longing other than I may flow through you again. Unwinding of the thread, needle of the curtain, power of the glass, the forest of amorphous, all your creatures love.
Yeah, the atmosphere and the sound for it here are phenomenal. Really digging what's going on here under the lyrics.
Cast me in snow, and I will weigh you down. Knuckles white, carry on.
Yeah, so that was a cool fermata there at the end of the last section.
Without any longing other than I may flow through you again.
Yeah. Yeah. Got those really nice offbeat cymbal hits. The bass was killing it before this. It's a bit chaotic with 3 melody lines here, but it's working. Yeah, so they're alternating between 7 and 9 pulls, so it's still in 4/4. It's just the third bar's downbeat accent is on the beat prior to 1. Yeah, it's getting real larger than life here. Why do these guys only have 60 subscribers? What is wrong with this? Sorry. I almost wonder if they wrote it in terms of movements, because there was just enough space there. I mean, it was a quick transition between the last idea and this one, but being that we had that nice fade out, and then we're starting soft on this one, I would almost say it's 2 movements. There just wasn't a lot of downtime between the movements, which is fair. You don't have to have downtime between them, but... So the last song had some prominent lyrics about being part of your veins or part of your blood or something like that. And it's interesting that the lyrical ideas of unity are not really seen here. This is very sparse, and it feels lonely. Kind of haunting in the fact that I feel like there's nothing else in this soundscape than just me. It is interesting to hear so many electronic ideas coming off of what seemed to be an almost fully acoustic set to begin with.
Do you dare this place? You wanna meet the devil face to face? Do you hear what I hear now? All these sparks snapping everything. Don't thirsty, this spiritual throat directed wrong. They're screaming in the name of God, but these sparks.
Yeah, the drive just in the drums alone are a huge shift from what we were seeing in that first movement.
Somebody needs to put them down like a wounded animal. Put out of their misery.
Yeah, the Warren guitars are an interesting concept. It almost feels like on the right side there's a guitar that's going along more or less with what's going on in the rest of the band, but then there's one to the left that's kind of doing its own thing. And then you have that keyboard that's just really providing a lot of tense undertones to what's going on here. That section was really weird, having like 25 beat phrasings. Real slick panning, I love good production. Yeah, the drummer's just killing it. This whole movement just been a lot of really insane drum work. Yeah, there's this strong idea of uncomfortable tension that kind of exists in that whole section, and not only was it predicated on some of the compositional work that was going on, including many of the interesting time feels. I'm pretty sure a lot of it was still in 4/4. We just had some really interesting sections that had unusual phrasing, but also just a lot of the production work and how things are panned and placed in the stereo was just really unsettling.
Place. You wanna meet the devil face to face. Do you hear what I hear now? These fucks laugh at everything. No mercy. They're screaming till the throats are ripped and raw. Screaming in the name of God, but these fucks laugh at everything.
Lots of really strong imagery in the few lyrics I've picked up. The dude has a knack for really making pictures out of his words. Much needed moment of peacefulness after that last movement. That resolution. Oh my jeez, that was butter. Those piano runs are gorgeous. Yeah, this is gold right here. So it's interesting, we have a nice like 6/4 going on here, but the guitar on the left side is just, I don't even know. Emphasizing the end of 3 and the end of 6, and then the 4 and the 1. Really interesting delayed pattern there. Got a theremin over on the right side. Yeah, really nice placement in the stereo though. Constantly having ideas left and right and then center. And usually things that are opposing are on the left and the right, and I think it's a really good way to produce the sounds.
Chime of the age of gold has called all creatures bold. The seeds in the water have birds, the tentacles are reaching out. Arm after arm after
Yeah, this is cool 6 against 4 thing going on here. If you listen to that hi-hat, it was in 6, but the guitars are in 4. Yeah, really gorgeous melody lines here. Ooh, resolution is so good. Dude, that snare bit on the drums though. I was expecting a really overdriven section. Interesting to pan the singer. Yeah, that really high synth in the right sounds real nice against all this. It provides a lot of the uplifting aspect that's going on. replicate the melody line in a new timbre with some flourish to it. And we see that same fermata show up from the first movement. That slowed down triplet. And again, a new timbre for the same melody. Do we shift modes though? It's taking on a bit of a darker spin.
The way you call, as if I don't already know. The morning sun can share a cup with this jar. The way you call and shed a tear with my own.
And this is a callback to the first movement, no?
And though it's far, when I believe it's like home, home. And in the heavens there's a fire returning, my friend, melted away the ruin of another age. You cried at the lion and swam against the stream to flow like water and lay down in peace. Hear my prayer, remember it when I'm gone.
Oh man, that was a bit rude. So I'm 90% sure that we just ended on the third part of a chord progression. Like, we should have had a nice strum down. Maybe not the third part. So we didn't get the resolution though. So we must have been on the fourth part, where it would have resolved home onto beat one of the next bar, and we didn't get that resolution. We got the leading tone, and then it pointed us to nothing. And I'm really curious how that works into the rest of the stuff there. Just because a lot of what these guys do is very intentional. And there has to be a reason for that we didn't get that final chord strum. Because what I really pictured in my mind after I heard that leading chord was a slow strum where you can hear each string individually, and you get the do 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 do, and you get this nice maybe an arpeggiation, or just even if it's if you're not going to get those nice strokes between your root, your 3, and your 5, and your octave, just, which I guess doesn't happen too often in open chords. But anyways, you get that really nice, slow, resolving strum to close out the song, and we just didn't get it, and I was completely expecting it, and it just, mm, mm. That is, there's intentionality to that, 100%. And I am curious how that ties into everything. But if we start looking at this song as a whole, I still believe that they exhibit several movements to it, and I wonder if they created the song with those movements in mind, or if that's just how the song ends up being. But we have several distinct areas that occasionally have callbacks to prior ones. And in that way, it does feel more like a multi-movement song that we tend to hear more often in classical than rock or metal. But the compositional technique and how the songs or the movements are broken up fit regardless. So yeah, those two things I think are my big questions, which is usually how I end these analysis sections. But I guess we're opening with them this time. Yeah, that final chord not getting the resolution, and then movements. Just like with I Shall Consume Everything, this song does a fantastic job of creating and moving through very distinct emotional atmospheres, while utilizing the timbres and tones at hand for purposeful extreme effect of creating these soundscapes. They have really beautiful voices when they sing. I think there's only one time that we had any sort of layered or harmonized voices, and that was at the end, but I mean, it was just gorgeous. They have a phenomenal way of playing around with beautiful composition, layering, harmonies, counterpoint, all sorts of really cool things that are going along that create these beautiful segments when they want them, but they also know how to really dig into the haunting and the unsettling in ways that are not necessarily your on the surface tropey, this is a creepy sounding section. They tend to really find ways to do it in other subtle sections or subtle areas. I mentioned it was in the third movement that we were really playing around with time a lot. And I mentioned earlier that we had a 4/4 section that was actually just a 7 and a 9 rhythmic patterns. Why is this word escaping me? I don't know. But the number of beats that each melody took up, we had a 7-beat melody followed by a 9-beat melody, and it made them feel very disjointed, very lopsided, which is very intentional, because they're both odd pulses. We as humans tend to really enjoy even stuff. It's why 6/8 feels right. It's why 4/4 feels right. And part of that also has to just do with a lot of music that we hear. A lot of popular music is written in 4. And throughout the years, a lot of our marches and stuff are done in 6/8. So those two are sort of, at least for the Western world, very kind of ingrained time signatures. But I think the fact that they're even also helps a lot because we have a very clear, deliberate loop. We have a point where we loop and there's nothing uneven about it. When we want to break it up into subdivisions, it's very simple. We have 4, we have 2 groups of 2. Every beat is broken up into your 8th and 16th subdivisions, and those are all equal and even, and there's just evenness running all the way down. But when you move into things like 5 or 7 or 9, when you try to break up the bar, or sorry, the pattern, the melody line in half, you can't. You're in a 7, your middle point is going to be halfway between beats 3 and 4, and you get this, unless you're going to accent the offbeat of 3, you're going to end up with an irregular lopsidedness where you're doing groups of 3 or 4. We've talked about this in 5/4 in the past. There's 2 ways to do it. You either feel like you're rushing near the end, or you're dragging near the end, because you'll do groups of 3 versus 2, which makes the 2 feel fast, or 2 versus 3, which makes the 3 feel long. And you can't get a nice evenness with the same amount of beats on either side of the middle point, unless again you're accenting an offbeat, which is it's doable, but it also has its own oddities to it. So when we get to this, we have a 7 and then a 9. So the 7 and the 9 are already going to feel disjointed because there's no middle point to them. The first half and the second half are going to have different feels. But then also you have 7 versus 9, and that means that you have a bar, a beat 1 after 7 beats, and then a beat 1 after 9 beats, and that makes it also feel disjointed because the beat 1 never comes at the same point. However, those two together create 16, which means that it is written in 4/4, so every 4 loops of this pattern, you'd have your 7/9 7/9, you're back to getting a beat 1 on the beginning of your 4/4 beat, and everything lines back up. But of course, for the most part, our human brains aren't going to hear that because it is such a large gap, especially when you figure that not only the 7 versus 9 feeling irregular, but also the 7 and the 9 are going to feel irregular within themselves, and all of the stuff that happens more frequently is really going to create a disjointed moment. But then we have this section later on, and this was in movement, I think this is in the 3rd movement, I think. And the time, like I said, it might have been in 4/4, but they were doing a lot of interesting things with the melody lines and the number of beats that they were getting, and how that all was playing against the 4/4, and that was all very disjointed. But then I mentioned that they don't just create disorienting sounds with the timbre and the tones, they do it in the time, but they also do it in the production. There's some really interesting panning things going on, and sometimes it isn't always just a simple like slide around where it's kind of going around your head or through your head, however you hear that. I tend to hear it going around, panning left to right. I guess maybe people can just hear like a straight pan. I don't know. I never thought about that till now. Yeah, the way I hear panning, it tends to like wrap around me when I have headphones on. But anyways, they do some of that, but also it's like strict back and forths where it sort of turns into a bit of a hocket with a single tone, and the hocketed aspect of how the melody line is broken up and sounding different is not in timbre or texture, but in location, and you have a single voice bouncing back and forth. And the whole thing is just really disorienting and unsettling and uncomfortable. And it's amazing how they can get away with all of that without really moving into the chordal qualities that we tend to associate with creepiness. Stuff like augmented chords. And they really kind of stuck with some of the more I don't know. It wasn't fully positive. It's not like we were in major the whole time. There was still a little bit of oddities, tension in the chordal stuff. It just wasn't the typical uncomfortable chords. And I think it's really interesting that they can pull that off with everything outside of the chordal mode, and pulling it off in, like I said, the production and some of the time stuff, and just really digging into how time feels odd and how that can influence the way somebody feels about the music. Um, and then of course, they had their signature. I don't know if it's their signature. This is only the second song I've heard from them, but that really overdriven, feels like the sound, it's the audio itself is going to tear apart. Guitar tones. I was really expecting to end on that, and maybe that's just because the last one we checked out was "I Shall Consume Everything," and it was this constant build. We started out real subtle, and then we kept growing and growing and growing in tone, in sound, in distortion, in overdrive, in compression, until we hit a point that just sounded like the song was going to, detonate, explode. It was really breaking down the medium itself, and I thought that was really clever, especially against the title. But we also just hear a lot of music like that when we want to hit something very emotional, or big, or out of this world, or larger than life. We continue to grow to these large sections, and they hit their biggest point in the middle of the track. Everything after that part was not as large, not as wide, not as larger than life, I guess, than that moment. So the ending was a bit bittersweet for me because I was expecting something a little larger, a big statement at the end of this point. And we didn't get it, but I guess that also ties into the fact that we didn't get a true resolution either, and it just kind of solidifies the fact that I think that there is something I'm missing in the lyrical themes about a lack of endings or a lack of conclusion or something like that. Whereas with "I Shall Consume Everything," I kind of understood how the theme of the music tied in with the lyrical theme, or at least the the song title itself. I'm not really seeing the comparison here between Creature and the music, and I think it has a lot more to do with the lyrics and some of the themes that the lyrics are talking about, rather than just so much the title, which Creature could really mean anything. So, yeah, really interesting their stuff there. Trying to think back at anything specific. I think I touched on all the stuff I can touch on. Like I've mentioned before with these longer tracks, I do tend to have a relatively good memory about what happens in a track, not so much core specifics, but kind of how ideas happen and how they relate to other things. But when we get to longer songs like this, my memory style definitely starts to reach some of its ends. It's reaches the end of its effectiveness, and yeah, it's harder for me to really tie together songs past the 12 to 15 minute mark because there's just so much going on, with these songs, that to remember 30 minutes of music and then to comment back on it, it is a lot. This is definitely a song that I would need to listen to, and I probably will listen to a couple more times to really get a grasp on what's going on. Not to mention that I dig these guys. It's not the typical music I would listen to casually, so I wonder if maybe it's more of an intellectual curiosity, maybe something that I would approach as a work of art, and I would listen to it once and be happy I've listened to it once, but it's not necessarily something I'm going to come back to casually. I don't know yet. That's kind of where I think I'm going with this, but I do want to experience some of their work because they do write these grand emotive pieces, not even in just in length, because I Shall Consume Everything was only like 8-10 minutes or something, I think. And it had a huge impact on me, and this one was very close to it, but I also think that I gave it a little bit too much critical attention, and I didn't allow myself to really feel the music, and some of that is just because it's a 30-minute song. But like I mentioned, I also think the lyrics play a much heavier part in understanding this one than they did in I Shall Consume Everything. That is just a guess, though. Since I don't think I have anything else I want to talk about specifically, I guess we will end this one here. And I'll check it out again, and I'll probably post, I don't know, I might post in the Discord or the Twitter if I have more thoughts about it. I should probably start doing that more often. There's so much stuff to listen to. We've checked out a lot of bands. I know we're over 300. We're over, 330 unique bands, 417 reactions. There's a lot of stuff that I have come to appreciate over the last year and a half-ish from doing this. And a lot of music that I plan to check out, but also, I need to find the time to check it all out. I have a huge list of probably 40 songs right here of stuff that I've told myself I'm going to explore more on or listen to again. And, some of it I have, but, a lot of it I haven't. And then I also, I like to make time to listen to the stuff I've purchased as well. I should probably make a video about that sometime too. I've purchased quite a few albums since starting the channel of stuff that I really have enjoyed. If you might not be able to see, it's that one right there. The closest CD on that second shelf from the top. That's actually Vintercy. I have both of Vintercy's albums. I've collected the System of a Down, all 5 of them. Ever since listening to a few of those back at the beginning. Yeah, I got some Between the Buried and Me. Like I've been picking up some CDs of stuff that I've enjoyed. So I like to listen to that in my spare time too. So it's just a lot of music and not a lot of free time, unfortunately. I don't know, I'm doing a bit of rambling here, so let's finish this one up. Those are my thoughts on the T Club's Creature. This is where you guys come in, they'll hit me up with your thoughts, your comments, your ideas. If it affected you, if you have anything you'd like to add, maybe I missed something, go ahead and drop that in the comments. There's a description box above that if you'd like to join the Discord community, or follow me on Twitter, or help support the channel on Patreon. You can also like, subscribe, and ring the bell. All 3 of those things help out the channel as well. If you can't or don't want to support through Patreon, that is fully acceptable. I get it. I don't get upset at anybody who can only like or subscribe or share or any of that. It helps out the channel a lot, so I appreciate that as well. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual, and we'll have another special selection. Tomorrow I get my second dose of my COVID shot, so we're going to see how things go for the end of the week. I've heard that the second dose is pretty rough. Fevers and body aches and all that. Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe I'll pre-record the last 2 videos of the week. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe I'll get it and I'll be fine and nothing will happen. I'll just keep carrying on like usual. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow, definitely at 5 p.m. Eastern, with more special selections. Until next time, though, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to. And have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.